There's like Wikipedia for true crime, and if you don't know about it, it is one of the best indexes for thousands of hours of reading. So, on my flight back from Hawaii last night, I decided to do a little bit of light reading about some Victorian murderers. Listen to this story of Mary Blandy. Mary Blandy had one victim. The date of the murder was August 14th, 1751. The date of her arrest was the same day. She was born in 1719, and her victim was her father, Francis Blandy, who she poisoned with arsenic. This happened in Oxfordshire, England, in the United Kingdom. And the status is she was executed by hanging outside of Oxford Castle Prison on November 30th, 1752. Okay, so Mary Blandy was a female murderer in 18th century England. In 1751, she poisoned her father, Francis Blandy, with arsenic. She claimed that she thought the arsenic was a love potion that would make her father approve of her relationship with William Henry Cranston, an army officer and son of a Scottish nobleman. Captain William Henry Cranston, who was considered by both of Mary's parents to be a fair suitor. Cranston, from a prominent family and descended from two famous Scottish clans, the Kerrs and the Campbells, was already married with two children in Scotland. He convinced his wife to sign papers that stated that she disowned him, but she did not, however, agree to an annulment. When Blandy found out about Cranston's behavior, he decided that he was not, after all, worthy to marry his daughter. So Cranston sent some powder to Mary, which he claimed was a love potion that would change her father's mind about their union. Mary put the powder in Francis's tea and his food. Blandy became ill and after a few days died. Mary was arrested, found guilty of murder, and hanged on November 30th, 1752. Cranston disappeared and spent the rest of his days in France. She claimed that she thought the arsenic was a love potion that would make her father approve of her relationship with William Henry Cranston. On Easter Monday, 1752, she was outside Oxford Castle Prison for the crime of parricide. Her case attracted a great deal of attention from the press. Many pamphlets claiming to be the genuine account of the genuine letters of Mary Bland were published in the press in the months following her execution. The reaction among the press was mixed. While some believed her version of the story, most thought she was lying. The debate over whether or not she was morally culpable for her crime continued for years after her death. In the 19th century, her case was re-examined in several texts with a more sympathetic light. People began to think of her as a poor, lovesick girl. Today, her case has been practically forgotten. Mary's parents raised her to be an intelligent, articulate, Anglican woman. Her reputation in Henley, where she lived her entire life, was that of a well-respected, well-mannered, and well-educated young woman. In 1746, Mary met Captain William Henry Cranston. The two intended to marry in 1751. However, it was exposed that he was married to a woman in Scotland and had a child by this marriage. Cranston denied the validity of this marriage and made several trips to Scotland over the course of his relationship with Mary to have the marriage annulled. After months of stalling, Mary's father, Francis Blandy, became suspicious of Cranston and believed that he did not intend to leave his wife. Mr. Blandy made no attempt to hide his disapproval of Cranston's marriage. What happened next is unclear. Mary claimed that Cranston sent her a love potion, which later turned out to be arsenic, and asked her to place it in her father's food to make him approve of their partnership. Mary did this and inevitably killed her father. The trial was on some forensic interest as there were expert testimony about the arsenic poisoning that was presented by Dr. Anthony Addington. Addington had done testing that would be rudimentary by today's standards, but was quite fascinating in the 18th century based on testing residue for traces of arsenic. It was of such interest to 18th century England that Dr. Addington's career was made. The doctor eventually became the family doctor to William Pitt, Earl of Chapman. His son would be Henry Addington, future Prime Minister and Home Secretary as Viscount Sidmouth. Mary was raised with all the advantages. She was the only daughter of a lawyer, Francis Blandy of Henley-on-Thames, and had the best home life and education. By the time she was 26 years old, she was beginning to think that an advantageous marriage had passed her by. despite the promise of a $10,000 dowry by her father. That is over $500,000 today. That's over $500,000 today. It was about this time that Captain William Henry Cranston came into Blandy's life. He was the son of a Scottish peer and was recruiting in the area. On hearing of the dowry, he ingratiated himself with the family. Mary was flattered by the man, and her parents snobbishly thought he was a worthy suitor. For Cranston's part, he obviously had a problem because he was already married with 2 children. Cranston wrote to his wife asking for her to disown him, which she did. When he wrote and asked her to have the marriage annulled, she objected and brought legal proceedings against her husband. Frances Blandy heard of the scandalous behavior of Cranston and threw him out. Cranston went to live with his mistress and then returned to his family in Scotland. Despite the distance, Mary and Cranston carried on their contact. Cranston sent Mary some powders. These, according to Mary, were designed to make her father more compliant in the matter of their relationship. Mary put them into her father's gruel and tea. He quickly became ill, as did a servant who had finished off some of the poisoned food. Doctors told Mary that if her father died, she would be accused of murder. She quickly disposed of the rest of the powders and her letters from Cranston, but the servants saw her while she was burning them. Frances Blandy died on August 14th, 1751. Mary came to the trial on the 3rd of March, 1752. After 11 hours, she was convicted and sentenced to death. She went to the gallows in Oxford on April 6, 1752. On mounting the ladder, some people in the crowd tried to look up her skirt, and she requested the executioners, "Gentlemen, don't hang me high for the sake of decency." Cranston fled to France on the hearing of Mary's arrest and joined a monastery. He died there on the 30th of November, 1752, only a few months after her. Had Cranston managed to marry Mary, he would never have got his hands on the $10,000 dowry. If he had managed to marry her, he would have never gotten his hands on the dowry because Blandy's entire estate amounted to less than $4,000. This is a story that just blew me away, and now I have a hyperfixation on murders from the 1700s and 1800s, so follow me if you want to learn more about some of these Victorian era schmurders.